Tehran, a city of more than 10 million people, is running out of water, not in the distant future and not in hypothetical scenarios. In some districts, it is happening right now. And when the capital of a regional power begins to run dry, the consequences reach far beyond household shortages. Water scarcity can reshape political stability, weaken state authority, trigger internal migration, and alter the balance of power across the region. But here's the part few people realize. Tehran's crisis is not a sudden emergency. It is the result of decades of decisions that pushed Iran into a corner. Today, we explore why Tehran is facing one of the most severe shortages in its modern history, how the crisis exposes deeper structural weaknesses within Iran, and what could happen if the capital becomes unsustainable. This is not just a story about water. It is a story about the future of Iran itself. Tehran now faces three simultaneous pressures: falling water reserves, collapsing aquifers, and growing electricity instability. Reservoirs around the capital have reached historic lows. Rainfall has declined, snowpack in the surrounding mountains has diminished, and climate patterns are shifting toward hotter summers and longer droughts. In other words, demand is rising while supply is shrinking. For decades, Tehran relied on groundwater extraction instead of sustainable planning. Some aquifers are now sinking by up to 25 centimeters per year, damaging roads, pipelines, and buildings. When land subsides, aquifers become permanently unusable. At the same time, more than 90% of Iran's power generation relies on water for cooling or hydropower. As water levels fall, power outages increase across households, hospitals, and industry. Internal migration has intensified the strain. As rural provinces faced water shortages, millions moved toward Tehran seeking stability. But the capital can no longer absorb this pressure. Iran built its economic and political system around a city whose water foundation is collapsing, and now the entire country is feeling the consequences. In an authoritarian system, legitimacy depends heavily on delivering basic services. As water disappears, social tensions rise. Protests have already erupted in Isfahan, Khuzestan, and Kerman. Tehran could be next. To understand how the crisis formed, we must look back. In 1950, Tehran had about 1 million residents. Today, it has more than 10 million. Infrastructure never kept pace. The city became the gravity center of Iran and its greatest burden. Rather than diversifying water sources, Iran dug thousands of wells, legal and illegal. Groundwater extraction exceeded natural recharge for decades, causing permanent aquifer loss, land subsidence, contamination, and heightened vulnerability to drought. Agriculture compounds the problem. It consumes more than 80% of Iran's fresh water, and many favored crops require heavy irrigation. Water was long treated as a limitless resource. During the Iran-Iraq War, development slowed, and afterward, political priorities shifted toward industry instead of sustainability. Climate change has accelerated every weakness. Iran is warming faster than the global average. Rainfall is declining, and snowfall in the Alborz Mountains, a critical source, is shrinking. The crisis is not caused by one factor, it is the collision of many. A wide range of actors are shaping the response. The government views water scarcity as both a technical emergency and a political threat. Its priorities revolve around maintaining stability in the capital, preventing protests, protecting industrial output, and avoiding nationwide blackouts. But sanctions, inflation, and limited budgets restrict what it can do. A government under pressure must choose which crises to fix and which to postpone. For the IRGC and other security institutions, water scarcity has become a national security issue. Internal instability threatens Iran's ability to project influence abroad. Urban households face rationing, irregular supply, rising prices, and infrastructure failures, fueling public frustration. Farmers rely heavily on groundwater, and restrictions would devastate livelihoods, yet continuing extraction devastates aquifers. It is a policy trap. Saving one side harms the other. Industry suffers as water and electricity shortages disrupt productivity. Everyone is affected, but not everyone has the same leverage. Tehran's crisis matters far beyond Iran's borders. A megacity under extreme stress becomes unpredictable. Tehran is the political, economic, and administrative core of the country. If the capital weakens, the entire state structure weakens. Water shortages threaten industrial output, agriculture, electricity grids, and transportation networks. If Tehran becomes unlivable, Iran could face internal displacement on an unprecedented scale. When a capital city grows unstable, borders lose meaning. People move. Foreign policy is also at stake. Iran's regional influence in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond depends on internal cohesion and economic strength. A weakened Tehran loses bargaining power. The military is affected as well. Bases require water, refining fuel requires water, and electricity grids sustain radar and missile systems. Even global energy markets feel the pressure as oil and gas extraction rely on stable water supplies. In geopolitics, water scarcity is never local. It radiates outward. Several futures are possible. One involves managed decline with intermittent relief, where rationing and emergency measures keep Tehran barely functional. This scenario buys time, but not much. Another path sees rising urban unrest as shortages spark protests, spreading tension to provincial cities and reducing Iran's ability to project power abroad. Infrastructure failure is another risk. As land continues to sink, pipelines crack, water loss accelerates, and entire neighborhoods could depend on tanker trucks. Blackouts become more frequent, and migration rises as some residents leave the capital. A city cannot function if its foundation is collapsing, literally. Another possibility is political. A regime under internal pressure may escalate external confrontation to redirect attention. Rhetoric intensifies, military activity abroad increases, and external threats become central to the narrative. This does not solve the crisis, but reshapes its meaning. The most optimistic scenario involves long-term adaptation, desalination plants, agricultural reform, groundwater regulation, wastewater recycling, and major pipeline rehabilitation. But sanctions and financial limits make such a transformation difficult. Adaptation takes time, and Tehran may not have enough. Tehran's water crisis is more than an environmental challenge. It is a mirror reflecting deeper structural issues: rapid urbanization, unsustainable agriculture, political centralization, aging infrastructure, and climate vulnerability. When a capital begins to run dry, the crisis becomes existential. Iran's stability, its energy sector, its military posture, and its regional influence all depend on the health of its capital. If Tehran becomes unstable, the consequences will be felt across the entire Middle East. The crisis is not just about water. It is about the limits of governance and the resilience of a nation under strain. Thank you for watching the Atlas Report. If you enjoyed this analysis, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss our next documentary. Your support helps us continue exploring global power, strategic geography, and the forces shaping world events. We appreciate your time. See you in the next report.